Time management. We've all heard about it. A whole industry has been built on it. You may even have been on a program or two yourself or invested in it for someone else, perhaps someone on your team. But here's the bad news. Here's the shocker. And I'm sorry to have to deliver it to you in such a brutal way. Time management, there's no such thing. Just let that settle in. That's probably not what you're expecting me to say. Certainly not what you're expecting to hear now, is it? Especially for those of you that are here today because maybe they did some Googling on help. I need some help, time management. Look, most leaders think that time is their most valuable resource. Well, we don't. In our book, we talk about what your most valuable resource is as a leader, but it's not time. And let's think about the expression, the phrase, the principle of time management. You and I both know you can't manage anything that you can't control. Can you control time? No, you can't, right? We all have the same amount of time. However many seconds there are in a day, and somebody's probably checking that out right now, they are the same seconds that you get, that I get, that Alexander the Great got, that Gandhi got, that JFK got, right, that Martin Luther King got, that Queen Victoria got. You get the idea. We all have the same number of seconds in a day. And we can't control the number of seconds that we have. So we can't control time. If we can't control time, then we can't manage it. You can only manage things that you can control. So it's a misnomer. So let's stop thinking about time management, because there's no such thing. But let's start thinking about behavior management. It's what you do in the time that you have, brackets we all have, that's the critical factor. It's behavior management, not time management. Your behaviors are one of your most valuable resource. If you're wondering what the most valuable is, it's action bias. But that means behaviors, right? And so I want you to stop wasting so much time thinking about time management. And I want you to spend or invest much more time thinking about behavior management. It's your behaviors that shape your outcomes, that drive your successes and determine your impact as a leader. And it's the same for everybody else. So when you master your behaviors, you'll find that time kind of almost takes care of itself. So I'm Antonio, and today I'm going to be your leadership coach over the next 30 to 45 minutes. If you'll invest that with us, we're going to explore investing time, not spending time. We're going to explore what you can do in order to be able to do more of the things that you need to do. And this way, you can finally begin to stop managing and start leading. Now let me take a second to stop. Whilst I'm drawing today's model, I'd like you to know, right, that all the models that we draw today and models that we have drawn in the past and models that we will draw in our future episodes are all available as a complimentary, that means free, digital download at www.mydailyleadership.com/podcast. Go on there. Click the ones you like, download them, print them, stick them on your wall, talk about them with others. Okay, so before we draw today's model, and actually we're just more going to draw a mind map today than anything else, I just wanted to just give you a quick 30,000 foot view of what we're going to be talking about. I talked in a previous episode, I think it was episode 13, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back and check that out. In episode 13, I asked, why do some teams or businesses, right, thrive and some falter? That was kind of our overriding question of episode 13. And we said if they are faltering, it's because there's a problem in the hive. And we introduced this principle of the leadership honeycomb. And you can see it here. We said, look, the reason that some of these businesses falter is because there is a lack. There is either a lack of clarity or vision, and we talked about that in one of our episodes. There's a lack of trust or truth, crucial, and we talked about that in another episode. There is a lack of alignment. We talked about that too. We also talked about lack of resources, and we've also talked about lack of commitment. So those lacks and the lack that we're going to be talking about today, which is lack of time, are really the reasons that why any business might be faltering. So if your business is faltering, or if it's not really reaching the potential that you had hoped for it, it's probably because one or more of those issues in the hive is a little bit skewed up. So lack of clarity, that's your issue as the leader. Lack of trust and truth, that's your issue as a leader. Lack of alignment, that's your issue as a leader. Lack of resources, you have to fix that too. Lack of commitment, tick, that's you too. And today we're going to talk about lack of time. So let's move on to another piece of paper now, where we're going to be doing a little mind map about what can we do about lack of time. In other words, what do we need to do in terms of our behaviors? Because we can't do anything about the time, but what we can do something about is our behaviors in the time that we have. So let's dive in. Okay, so you've seen this image before, I hope. If you haven't, that means this is maybe one of your first episodes. As usual, go to our website so you can see the doctored, beautified version of this. Episode 13 was the first time that we introduced you to this, but I just wanted to, again, just give you a really quick overview. So this is our leadership honeycomb. Businesses struggle through lack of certain things. It could be lack of clarity, lack of leverage, lack of commitment, lack of alignment. I'm sorry, that was lack of resources. Lack of trust and truth, and lack of time. So today we're just going to expand the lack of time principle for you. What does lack of time give us? And as I've mentioned just a few moments ago, the issue here isn't time management, it's behavior management. Now here's the good thing about behavior management. Whilst there's nothing you can do about time, you can't manage time, there is no such thing as time management. Every second goes by in, well, a second, and there's zero we can do about that. We can't slow down time, we can't speed up time. So we can't control time. But what we can control 100% is our behaviors, right? So this is an issue of controlling the controllables, which is one of the things that leadership is about. So what does lack of time give you? I'm going to talk to you about what you do about that in a second, but lack of time gives you short-term thinking. In other words, you're only focused on right now. You're doing lots and lots and lots of firefighting instead of fire prevention. Lots of missed opportunities because you're moving at 1,000 miles an hour. This comes back, I think, to episode 1 or 2, where whilst ever you're working in the now, in the immediate, in the short term, in firefighting mode, you miss strategic opportunities, which would be a strategic inflection point for the organization. So lots of missed opportunities. Quality comes down because people skate past, really finishing things off beautifully, right? That's, I think, self-evident and self-explanatory. And dissatisfaction goes up everywhere, not only in your customers and suppliers and your people, but also yourself. Okay, so we know what the problems are with lack of time. So today I just want to really, more than anything else, explain lack of time and certain things that you can do about it to deal with short-term thinking, missed opportunities, and so on and so forth. And really, because it's more of a thinking that I need the right kind of attitude and beliefs, and it's more of a mental paradigm I need you to get into, there's no model as such. But what I'd like to do is to just explore with you, and we'll see how it turns out, right? Because we're going to do this live, we're going to do this together, and I'm not entirely sure what this is going to look like. But I thought maybe the best thing that we could do to explain this and to deal with this is to just draw a mind map. So Tony Buzan's mind map, if you're a leader and you don't mind map things, like what have you been doing, right? Get into the habit, and this is the point that I want to make, I think, today. Get into the habit of sitting down with a piece of blank paper and thinking things through, just kind of drawing diagrams. And the diagram that you should be, or I expect you to be drawing more than anything else, is a mind map, just to kind of help you start to connect some of the dots. So all you do is you write in the middle, so this is a demo more than anything else, you write in the middle what the thing is that you're trying to think about and address, and then you start to just compartmentalize, think things, not necessarily through, but kind of connect things in your brain, see how that looks. There's lots of arrows, and who knows where this will end up. So let's just think about this lack of time and some of the stuff that we've already talked about. So we said, the lack of time is giving us short-term thinking, missed opportunities, quality's going down, dissatisfaction's going up, right? So we could mind map those things. But what I'd like to do is to just introduce you to 4 things, and then we'll mind map those out. So what are those 4 things? If there is a lack of time, and remember, there is no such thing as a lack of time, because we all have the same time. You get my point, I hope. Kind of mentioned it to death now. So one of the things that we have to do is to start to prioritize. And I'm going to go beyond that. I'm going to say we have to prioritize ruthlessly, right? We're going to get really, really good at prioritizing. And the better we are at prioritizing, that's going to help us with this lack of time. We've got to make sure that we delegate really effectively. So let's put that up here. Delegate really effectively. So that's something else that we need to think about. Time blocking is really, really, really important. So let's put this over here and then think about that in a few seconds. Time blocking, and I'll give you some thoughts about time blocking in a moment. Let's think about automating some things, right? Automate, let's just say routine tasks, okay? And actually, if any of you have read the wonderful book, 10x is easier than 2x, they talk about automating things, and they also talk about making sure you've got the right people on board to help you move faster. And that could be another way that we automate things, by kind of passing them off for other people to do. But okay, so let's think about delegating effectively. We did a whole session on the 4 Ds, which kind of falls into that. So I'll just make a note of it over here. So let's just go the 4 Ds. That could be one of the things that we make sure that we're getting really, really good at. And the 4 Ds are really, we have to make sure, and go back to the session, find the session on the 4 Ds. I'm not going to do the whole thing today, but just to say, look, what the 4 Ds are, the first thing we have to do is decide. We've got to decide what we're going to do, decide what we're not going to do. So we've got to make a decision, and there's lots of tools to help you make decisions. So when we're going to delegate effectively, the first thing is we have to decide. So there's something that needs to be done, and the first thing is nothing happens until we make a decision. So we've got to make a decision, we have to decide, and we have to decide only 3 things really. We have to decide whether personally we are going to do it, and then we've got to figure out, well, how do we find space for the doing of it, or we delegate it. We'll come back to that in a second. Or we ditch it, right? We elect not to do it. And making a decision to not do something is one of the most important decisions that leaders can make, right? I'll say that one more time. Making a decision not to do something is one of the most important decisions that leaders can make, right? So delegate effectively. That means, so go hunt out and go and find the video that we did on the 4 Ds, which is make a decision, use tools to help you make a decision. And that decision then is either we do it ourselves, the few most important things, come back to that in a second. We delegate it. How well are we delegating it? This is the thing that we're talking about here, is delegating effectively. Or we ditch it, which is really important, okay? Because every time we say yes to something, in other words, yes, I am going to do it, we are in effect saying no to something else. So every time you say yes, make sure you're asking yourself, what, as a consequence of saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? Why am I saying no to something else? Because there are only so many seconds in the day, right? So every time you say yes to something, you say no to something else. Conversely, every time you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else, or yes to having the space to do something else. So be really clear about the decisions that you make in terms of the things that you ditch. Okay, you should only do the things that no one else can do. Say that also one more time. You should only do the things that no one else can do. If somebody else can do the thing that you're thinking of doing, have someone else do it, right? So delegate it. So that do is another trigger. Am I doing it, or am I going to give it to somebody else to do? Am I going to delegate it? Well, I should only be doing the things that no one else could do. So can anyone else do this thing? No. Okay, well then I have to do it. Can anybody else do this thing? Yes. Okay, then I have to delegate it. Part of your job as a leader is to increase the scope and width and breadth of the things that other people can do. How do you do that? You develop them. When you develop people, which may feel like it's slowing you down, it's actually slowing down to speed up, because it means that you can give more things to more people. You can delegate them, which means there's more things for the things that you have to do. Okay, good. Let's not go into that today. Conversation for another day, and a video for you to watch from another day. All right, cool. Let's delegate effectively. That's 4 Ds. Next thing I want to talk about here is results, not tasks. Results, not tasks. What does that mean? That means you delegate results, not tasks. When you delegate to somebody, when you delegate well, what you're not doing is saying, hey, Bob, do this and this and this and this. Tell him that. And then once you've done that, come back and tell me what he said. And then we'll have another conversation and I'll tell you what to do again. That's delegating tasks. That's management. We're not talking about management. We're talking about leadership. Leadership is delegating results. Management is the use of directed authority. What does the use of directed authority sound like? It says, hey Bob, tell him this, say that, tell me what he says, and then talk to me and we'll decide what else to do. That's delegating tasks. Delegating tasks slows you down. Plus, it actually constrains people, because what you're looking to do is create lots and lots of mini-me's. We don't want you to create mini-me's. Go back to another video we did about Russian dolls. David Ogilvy. Have we got a Russian doll up there? If you can see it, Russian dolls, right? We're not trying to create smaller versions of you, trying to create bigger versions of you. Go watch that video. Okay, so delegate results, not tasks. Make sure that somebody really understands what it is that you want them to do. In other words, the results that you want to achieve, make sure they really understand that and let them go do it, right? Let them go do it. Conversation for another day. So results, not tasks. Also, in terms of delegating more effectively, let's also think about the right person, not the closest person. Right person, not the nearest person. Don't delegate all of your things to the same person, the person that you think is the most capable. You bury that person under so much stuff to do that they can't do their job properly and everybody else gets a free pass. I don't think so, right? Try and figure out this task or these results, right, require these particular skill sets, these particular capabilities, competencies and all of that kind of stuff. Delegate to those people. How do you know what their capabilities and competencies are? Like, how do you know really well? You assess your people. So you know that Charlie has a natural proclivity to do this really well. Mary has a natural proclivity to do these things really well. You get the idea. Assess all your people. Find out where their particular strengths are. We have a great assessment. There are others available, right? And delegate to those people. Okay, so the right person, not the nearest person. And then the other thing about delegating effectively, I think I'll say at this point before we move on, is management by exception. I'm so glad, by the way, that our producers take what I do here and make it so much more beautiful. By the time you downloaded this, it's going to look lovely, I'm sure. Okay, so management by exception. If you don't know what management by exception is, please learn that as quickly as possible. It will help you with your lack of time. And of course, there's no such thing as lack of time, but it will help you with your behaviors. What that means is stop micromanaging people, right? When you have agreed that somebody is doing something or they are responsible for something, just agree up front. What do the early milestones of success look like? How do we know if we're on the right track or not? What are the KPIs that we're going to measure? What are the trigger points to start involving you. Once you've agreed all of those kind of things and review dates and all those good, hygiene things, just let them get on with it. Don't micromanage them, taking up a lot of your time by just kind of like checking in with people. You don't need to check in with people if you've done the job properly of delegating effectively. You don't need to check with them. You'll have scheduled spots for reviews and you'll know that they're on track. If they're not on track, in other words, let's say between 90 and 110% of whatever that particular activity is, then they have a responsibility and they understand that responsibility because you've explained that responsibility, that they're going to come and knock on your door. So you've delegated out 30 things and no news is good news. You don't need to check up on people if you've agreed that up front. You've got the right kind of people. Okay, cool. So delegating effectively, let's move on. So let's take a quick break there for a second. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Glad you could invest some time with us. I'm Antonio Garrido. I'm the founder and president of My Daily Leadership. And as a serial entrepreneur, business leader, and author of 3 books, soon to be 4. I've had the opportunity, I hope you buy it, I've had the opportunity to work with everyone from emerging startups to Fortune 60 powerhouses. We've been helping them create better leaders and to grow sustainably and substantially. When we first launched this podcast, we knew we wanted to deliver real-time value, real-time ROI to busy and ambitious leaders. You're just like us, and we understand that you're constantly juggling a lot. I know I am, which is why we try and pack each episode with practical advice and real tools that you can implement immediately. And if you found anything useful so far, please take a moment to like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube or whatever is your favorite podcast platform. Your support does help us reach many more leaders just like you. It makes it easier for us to find too. And if you're listening on YouTube, share your biggest leadership challenge in the comments below, and we'll either point you to an episode that tackles that thing, or we'll create a special one just for you, because everyone is like you and they will have the same challenges. I promise. We truly read and comment and respond to every single one. Oh, and before we jump back into the model, don't forget that all of the models are available free on our website. Our amazing podcast producers take my drawings, make them much better, transform them into beautiful downloadable models. Head over to www.mydailyleadership.com/podcast. Okay, back to the model. Time blocking. Let's talk about time blocking. Right. What I'd like you to start to think about is time blocking your priorities. Now, I can't remember who it was that says, we talk about it in the book, and I think we've talked about it in a couple of videos. If you have more than, let's pick a number, 4 or 5 priorities, you have none, right? So think about that. So time block your priorities, not your meetings. Now, that's a big truth bomb for most leaders. Time block your priorities, not your meetings. So many of our leaders, we look at their calendars and it's meeting. Man. And that doesn't develop your people. Which of those meetings can some of your people, deputize for you? Let's develop those people. Start mentoring people around the organization. So time block your priorities, not your meetings. How long are your meetings? Does each meeting have to magically fit 60 minutes? I don't think so. Look at what Elon Musk does. Well, probably a bad example. Maybe Jeff Bezos, maybe another bad example. But lots of these really, really high-powered, effective, right, successful business owners, they time block their meetings very, 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 very short, and their priorities very, 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 they give much more time to their priorities than their meetings. Does every meeting have to be a meeting? Can it be an email? Can a meeting be 50 minutes? If a meeting were 15 minutes instead of an hour, man, you've actually created loads of time for loads of people. If there are 8 people in a meeting, and you say at the start of the meeting, not to terrify them, but hey guys, if this meeting were 15 minutes, what were the few most important things we talk about? What would they be? And you'd be amazed how an hour's meeting can get down into 50 minutes. You'd be amazed what happens if everybody stands up instead of sits down. You'd be amazed if the last person in is responsible for writing all the notes, how they start and finish on time. You'd be amazed if you say to everybody in the meeting, okay, you got 2 points to make. What are the 2 most critical points, right? So people, it's just not just a talking shop. But anyway, we'll talk about meetings in another another video. Right, but time block your priorities. Here's the other thing about time blocking. Chunk out some stuff, right? So let's say chunk, I think that's it. Chunk out, is it hyphenated? I don't know. But you could say, for example, that Mondays, for example, are for deep work only, right? Mondays are deep work only. Tuesdays are for meetings only. That's it, the whole week, meetings only. Wednesdays are for strategy only. Thursdays are for coaching only. Fridays are for, I don't know, whatever is important to you. Here's the thing. When we talk to some people about how they're time blocking, how they're chunking out their time, we ask them, normally, VP of sales or sales manager or even a salesperson, we say, hey, listen, what would you do if like your biggest prospect called you up and said, hey, Bob, we've got a really important project, or we're renewing our annual contract. We'd really love to talk to you about it. Are you free next Wednesday at 3? And you say, yeah, of course. And you put in your calendar, Wednesday at 3, going to talk to my biggest prospect, right? Something like that. And you put a big red box around it, right? You'd make sure that was understood, that that's the thing you're doing next Wednesday at 3. Then you put the phone down. 20 minutes later, your boss sends you an email or calls you up and say, hey, Bob, what are you doing next Wednesday at 3? I'd like to have a meeting with you. You're going to say, can't do it, boss, can't do it, because next Wednesday at 3, I am with my biggest prospect to talk about this huge opportunity. Think about what would need to happen for you to not make that meeting Wednesday at 3. Well, it'd be a nuclear bomb, right? There would have to be a catastrophic event. Your car would have to blow up for you to not make that meeting Wednesday at 3. Well, why don't you treat... So it seems that some meetings you can be flexible on, sometimes you can be flexible on, some things that you commit to you can be flexible on, and some things you can't. Well, why don't you change that and make sure that every single thing you're not flexible on? In other words, you're chunking out the important stuff, you're finding a place for it, you're time blocking it, let's say on a Sunday night. On Wednesday at 3, I am coaching someone on something. And I don't care whatever happens, whatever comes up, Wednesday at 3, I'm coaching someone. Because developing people is my number one priority, right? And so don't just say if something else comes up, oh yeah, hey, listen, Bill, I know we had a coaching session on Wednesday, but let's push that back a week. No, because those are important things. Don't push them back, right? Block them out, chunk them out, put them in your calendar, the important things. Only the most important things. So chunk out, time block, prioritize the important things. Okay, cool. Let's talk about automating routine tasks. There will be lots of things that you do, like it could be meetings, communications, something, right? There are organizations designed to help you do that better. So think about tasks, think about workflows, and I don't know what you do for a living, but so there'll be tasks and workflows. So tasks and workflows. So think about, for example, asana, and listen, this list is huge, right? But get into the modern age, right? So you got asana, Notion, pretty good. ClickUp, they're pretty good. Zapier, they're pretty good. You get the idea, right? Slack, all of that good stuff, right? So figure out how to automate and how to modernize lots of the things that you do, right? Think about Slack bots. Think about templates, all of that good stuff. There's something that's quite modern you might have heard of, but probably a little bit avoiding because it does seem a little bit dangerous, a little bit scary. I'm not entirely sure how to deal with it and what it's all about. It's called AI, right? So figure out how to get AI to help you move faster and more efficiently and more effectively. So automate. There will be some things that you do that really, you could get some tech to help you do that better, much better than you do. I'm always reminded of the joke by Woody Allen. Every time I hear the words AI, I think about this joke by Woody Allen that he did in one of his stand-up routines in the early 60s, right? So a long time ago, long time ago. and he was bemoaning that he was telling the fact that his dad had been laid off work because they developed this microchip that did everything that his dad did, but twice as good and in half the time. And he said, and he was okay until the point that his mum bought one, right? So that she could have everything that his dad did in half the time and twice as good. So I think about AI in that way. Look, let's think about prioritizing ruthlessly, and then let's move on. So prioritizing ruthlessly, Eisenhower matrix, right? Eisenhower matrix. And you know about the Eisenhower matrix, right? By now, the important and urgent, where you're living, start following where you're living. You should only be doing the high importance, low urgency stuff. Now, in times of absolute crisis and mayhem, of course, you're going to have to flip that, right? But most of the time, you should be living in the high importance, low urgency quadrant. If you're not, figure it out. Who's going to figure it out if not you? Nobody. Figure it out for yourself. Or get a coach. We know some good ones. Talk to us, right? So high importance, low urgency. If you're living in high importance, high urgency, as a lot of our leaders are when we first meet them, it's got to change, and only you can do that, right? So think about the Eisenhower matrix, conversation for another day perhaps. Think about the one thing. If you haven't read the one thing, read the one thing. The one thing. The one thing, well, it's a book, right, written by Gary Keller of Keller Williams, the real estate people. But the one thing basically has you realize, what's the one thing that I have to do before I am allowed to go to bed tonight, right? So it takes a goal and it starts to chunk that goal down into what's the one thing. Let's say it's, I don't know, get to a certain revenue within 5 years. Which sounds, what's this got to do, right? Well, if I'm here now and I've got to be here in 5 years, I've got to be here in two and a half years, I've got to be here in 1 year, I've got to be here in 6 months. Well, if I've got to be there in 6 months, what are the things that I have to do in month 1, month 2, month 3, and month 4? And when I know the things I have to do in month 1, what are the things I have to do in week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4? What are the things if I have to do in week 1 that I have to do on Monday? Once you figure that stuff out, that means that you are prioritizing ruthlessly, and that's your number one focus for the day, right? Figure all of that out. That's the whole description of the whole book. But the book will give you lots more details. Or talk to us, right? Okay, so the one thing. Think about the 80-20 rule. Most people use the 80-20 rule kind of as a very blunt instrument. But if you start thinking about the 80-20 rule and also Price's law, that's another video we talked about, right? So you've got Pareto's law, that's the 80-20, and Price's law, that's another video. Go find that. Use them as scalpels, right? Not as kind of like bludgeons and hammer. And then I think I said just before, in fact, I know I did, start thinking about your no's and your yeses to help you prioritize. When you've figured out the Eisenhower matrix, when you figured out the one thing, when you've got Pareto and Price's law figured out, that helps you. What am I saying no to? As a consequence of saying no, I'm saying yes to something else. When I'm saying yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. Prioritizing ruthlessly. Okay, I think that's it for now, right? So, lack of time, which is one of these reasons that organizations are struggling. There's no such thing as lack of time. What is it? It's not time management, it's behavior management. It's you are making choices to do things that you want to do. Let me tell you, there are a million things that I could be doing other than doing this right now. But we do this right now because we know how important this is for our business success going forwards and to helping people, because that's one of our stated aims. Are there other things I could be doing right this very second? Yes, there are. But I choose to do this because of how important it is. This is the high importance, low urgency thing, right? It's the right thing to do. Well, that's all for today. Time's got the better of us. I'm hoping you're seeing the humor in that. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your takeaways from today. Are your time and behavior management issues causing you to A, spend too much time in short-term thinking? That's going to damage your business. B, miss important opportunities. That's going to damage your business. C, compromise on quality and service delivery. That's going to damage your business. Or D, increase dissatisfaction rates in suppliers, customers, and or staff. That's going to damage your business too. So just write A, B, C, or D. A, spend too much time short-term thinking. B, missing important opportunities. C, compromising on quality and service. D, increase satisfaction. Leave a comment and let us know. So, thanks for your time today. A big thank you for being here. As always, I do hope this episode offered you something of value, even if it's just one tool or one tip or one idea or one thought or one belief that improves your ability by only 1%. Remember, there's immense power in marginal gains consistently applied daily over time. So be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes like this one. And in the next episode, as a teaser, we're going to be talking about pilots and golfers and what they have to do with leadership, in as much as they are both extremely adept at course correction. I think those are the only clues you're going to get for now, but most leaders we talk to are not very good at course correction. So come along to discover why and what you can do about it. I'm Antonio Garrido from My Daily Leadership. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, by wisdom and effort, see you soon.